Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show, where we help you make the wisest and most profitable decisions. My name is Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. I'm the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, the future of work consultancy that sponsors the Wise Decision Maker Show. And I'm joined by Cristi. Cristi, can you please share a little bit about yourself and tell us what you do?
Yeah, hi, I'm Cristi Tobelmann. I'm the Senior Vice President of Human Resources for DaySmart Software. We are a business management software platform that's headquartered in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I have over 10 years of experience in HR leadership.
Mhm,
DaySmart is a remote global company with employees in
mhm,
over 10 countries. I have over 300 employees now, and the business is growing. Some areas of interest for me is employee advocacy, using technology and efficient processes to solve
mhm.
business problems and employee relations. So I'm very excited to be here chatting with you today.
Excellent. Thank you, Cristi.
Yeah.
So you said that you're a remote company. Can you tell me a little bit about what you find to be the benefits of being a remote company?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things that I like about remote work and
Mm,
flexible work for employees. So, one of the things that I like the most from an HR standpoint
mhm,
is inclusivity. So, being able to
mm,
cast a wide talent net helps us
mhm.
to hire and retain the best talent. I'm also a working mom, so
Oh,
having remote work is very beneficial for working parents, especially
mm,
moms. Being able to keep moms in the workforce is something that I'm really passionate about, especially. Um, it helps us to employ folks in other geographies. So just because I
mhm.
don't have an office in a city doesn't mean that I can't hire someone there. So other cities, states, countries are open to me to be able to hire roles that I
Mm,
need to hire. It's also good for folks with disabilities. It reduces
oh,
barriers to employment for people who maybe don't have transportation,
mhm.
disabilities, mental health issues. And I also think it's good for introverts and helps make it
Yeah.
easier for introverts, such as myself, to thrive at work.
Mm,
So, yeah, being able to have your own comfort zone, your own
mm,
work setup, the way that you like things to be done helps eliminate some nervousness or anxiety that you
mhm,
may have when you're physically in the office. So I like all of those things in terms of being
mhm.
able to hire inclusively, and selfishly, I want to hire the best people to come and work with me. So being able to
Sure.
cast that wider talent net is really, really important. Another thing that I really like about
Mm,
remote work that I'll coach managers and leaders on is that it provides trust and autonomy to workers. So
mm,
I have a tech workforce. We need them
mhm.
to be very innovative. We want to come up with
Oh,
new solutions, new products, new ways of solving our customers' problems.
mhm.
Remote work gives employees that feeling that we trust them, how they
Mm,
get their work done, where they get their work done, and we give them the autonomy to be able to get the work done in the way that they need to do. So it helps to set that foundation that I think is really important for innovative work, especially.
okay.
The other thing that I really like about remote work is it allows opportunity for uninterrupted, what I would think of as flow time. So when I'm
Mm,
physically in the office or spending time with coworkers in person, it's very social. We get a lot
yeah.
of work done that's important in that sense, but it's hard for me to have heads down, very
Mm,
deep, thoughtful work on a topic, very deep work in software coding for engineers or working with spreadsheets for
mhm.
finance or data related folks, and being able to have uninterrupted time is really important if you're
Mhm.
doing deep thinking work. And I personally find that's harder to do when I'm in the office with lots
Mm,
and lots of coworkers versus just
sure.
being at home. So I would say those are probably some of my favorite things,
Mhm,
because I'm in a workforce with a company now that manages finances. I think
mhm.
it's one of the employee delighters or really important employee programs that really doesn't cost a company a lot of money. Being able to
Mm,
let folks work from home helps them. They don't have to drive in, they don't have to
yeah.
maintain vehicles. And for companies, that's physical space. They don't have to lease in a spot all the time for everyone.
Mm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So there's a lot of benefits. I noticed you mentioned creativity, and I know that some companies have had trouble with innovation, creativity due to working remotely. So could you tell me a little bit more about the kind of challenges that you see associated with remote work? Maybe the innovation, creativity, maybe other areas. What do you see from your perspective? What are some challenges?
Yeah, so some challenges around creativity and innovative work is
Hmm.
like it can be harder to form close relationships. If you're just doing
Hmm.
project-based work or you're only interacting with folks in a Teams meeting talking about a project, it can be hard to get to know folks on an
Okay.
interpersonal basis. So you have to really take the time and attention to build relationships. And so for
Hmm.
me, being able to come up with really creative solutions or innovative solutions, I have to know deeply my customer or my employee
Hmm.
base that I'm working on a problem for. And that comes
Hmm.
from a relationship building standpoint. So that can be a little bit challenging in terms of
Hmm.
impacting innovation. Um, I also think that sometimes cultural challenges when you have a really dispersed and remote workforce
Okay.
can make those things a little bit more challenging.
Hmm.
So, literally, time zone changes,
Hmm.
differences in cultures, and also to be aware of is the more that we have folks that are working remotely or asynchronously, it increases the opportunity for miscommunication in
Hmm.
written conversations. It's hard to
Yeah.
always convey the emotion that you want in a written
Hmm.
word in the way that us having this interactive dialogue right now, you get
Sure.
the three-dimensional version of it.
So let's talk a little bit about how you address those problems. So let's dive into each one of those. So let's talk about relationships. And I've worked with a number of companies to help them figure out their remote work models, and I developed a number of strategies to help people cultivate closer relationships within a remote setting. I'm curious what you do. What do you do to address the relationship building challenges in a remote setting?
Yeah, so what I like to tell leaders a lot is that being able to lead a successful remote team is easy, but it's not simple. So, what I
Hmm.
mean by this is that it's not a leadership style that can operate on autopilot. You have to put
Hmm.
some effort into building those relationships. And relationships oftentimes can be thought of as sort of a squishy topic or a soft topic. So I'll tell you a little bit more about what I mean by putting
Yeah.
effort into those relationships in terms of like easy tips. Employees generally want to know um, the same things from their employers. And the good news is none of these things like really require you to physically be in the office to be successful.
Hmm.
So employees want to feel like they're developing their strengths at work. They want to feel like
Hmm.
they're able to put in good work and grow in the areas where they're strong. So they want to have that. And as a manager, you can provide that relationship with folks. They want to feel like they're recognized. So you have to
Okay.
put time and effort into making sure that employees feel recognition when you're not
Hmm.
physically in the same space together. Um, they want those one-on-ones with you as a manager, whether you're physically
Hmm.
present in the same place or you're remote. They want to spend that time. So communication. All of these
Hmm.
are communication. We're all in the
Yeah.
office together every single day. It's really easy for a manager to walk around
Hmm.
without a plan, without any attention, and just sort of walk around, see what folks are up to, check in with them, do it ad hoc as they want to. And in order to be successful in a remote environment, you have to intentionally set
Hmm.
time aside for communication, for team building.
Yeah.
Um, and the other piece that's a little bit tricky is what I would call cultural components. So,
Hmm.
if we have an office where everybody's physically in person and present, a lot of managers think that others, HR, administrative, supporting roles, are the
Hmm.
ones who are assimilating folks to core values, to
Hmm.
norms, planning social events. And there isn't really that other in a remote environment that moves
Hmm.
back to the manager to make sure that they're helping and supporting um, bringing employees into the cultural expectations at work and fitting into the greater culture in the office.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think it's important to be intentional in those relationships to be successful. Tell managers also flexibility and trust wherever and however you're doing the work
Hmm.
is really important. Um, Making sure that employees feel that connection. And then the latest piece that we've spent a fair amount of time on is what's the right cohort size for a leader to be able to build those relationships? Like, what's that
Hmm.
right number? And how big is too big of a group? So
Hmm.
at DaySmart, for example, we've done quite a few acquisitions. And while it's easy for
Okay.
folks to stay interconnected in a startup of, say, 20
Hmm.
employees, when they come and join the greater DaySmart and they say, like, oh, it's 300 employees, that's way too many people to get to know in a virtual social event,
Mhm.
versus a smaller group that you can kind of
Mhm.
keep together. So we're looking
Yeah.
at things like mentoring or smaller group sizes to more
Mhm.
easily facilitate some of that relationship building.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you focus on the relationship building between managers and employees, and I've definitely worked on a lot of that, and it sounds like you're doing that really well. But I've seen a big aspect of when we're talking about creativity and innovation is building relationships between staff members themselves, so rank and file, not manager to employee, but employee to employee. And if we think about innovation, it's really generally going to come from employees talking to each other, having ideas, generating ideas. What I found helpful, so just giving you a couple of examples, what we've used when helping other companies figure this out, would be things like virtual coffee hours, where people opt in to be randomly paired with others across the company, let's say with engineers from other teams, to just for a half-hour coffee chat once a week to get to know each other. And we provide a template that they can use to have a conversation. And the company pays for like $5 for each to just get coffee. And so they just have coffee with each other and they chat and they use this template to get to know other people across the company. So we have a lot of research showing that it's really the weak ties, the ties that are not directly to people in your team that facilitate innovation and creativity. And that is really helpful for building weak ties. So that's kind of like one thing that we find really helpful, one-on-one
Yeah.
activities. Then, so I'm curious to get your thoughts on that. But before that, I'll give you another example of activities that we
Yeah.
find helpful is group activities, virtual group activities. And those can include various groups that are interested in things like, let's say, video games. And that's especially helpful for Gen Z, some millennials who are more into video games. Those are really good activities to do in a virtual setting where a bunch of people just get together, play video games, they chat on Discord, and they bond over that. And then there's the virtual movie watching, where people watch a movie or a show or sports events again and can chat to each other on Discord. So there's a way of chatting to other people. So obviously, a little bit of a different demographic than the people who play video games, but still, there's a number of older employees often who are interested in those activities. And then there are a little bit offbeat things like virtual escape room events and other sorts of virtual events where those are more explicitly corporate style team building activities that, again, are really helpful for creating those bonds across various teams, across the organization in a group setting. So you have one-on-one team building bond relationships through the virtual coffee hours and group activities that build relationships through activities like video game playing, sport watching, movie watching, virtual escape rooms, and so on that help build bonds across groups. So I'm curious about those sorts of activities, whether you're doing some of those things that would be relationship building and therefore help improve creativity and innovation and culture, of
Yeah.
course.
So this is an area where technology has come a long way in the past couple of years
Mm.
since COVID in providing some assistance. So we have an instant messenger platform called Slack that really integrates
Mhm.
well with a lot of different programs that encourage those. So if you want to have
Mhm.
a random conversation with anybody else in the company, we can add in a tool like Donut that will help facilitate some of those conversations. Or if you have a lot of software engineers in your company, they can help to build you a chat bot that will facilitate
Mhm.
some conversations if you want to randomly pair a couple of folks up. We do, as a senior leadership team, kind of have random folks that we'll have all the executives reach out to, and we switch it up quarterly to have kind of
Mhm.
small group chats, like an Ask Me Anything format.
Mhm.
That seems to go pretty well. And the other thing that our employees have responded pretty well to that we've tried doing a couple of times is an outside facilitator that does icebreaker type of conversations. And so
Mhm.
random employees get paired up on a team and they have to do like virtual scavenger hunt activities. They're
Mhm.
like, hurry
Mhm.
up and make a musical
Yeah.
instrument out of something on your desk and show it to the group and vote for winners with little prizes or a variety of different things. If you lower the threshold for interaction, if you're having a
Mhm.
coffee chat, like you discuss, and it's not a high pressure situation,
Mhm.
folks are more likely to join in, and especially younger employees, it's hard for them if they've never been in an office or they have very little experience physically working in an office. They really crave those interactions in a way that when I was new at work, I would have been physically learning a lot on the job, sitting next to folks. And so to really be able to unleash some of that creativity, we got to make sure that the younger employees in our company have the opportunity to build those bonds and relationships with folks who've been here longer.
Absolutely. Well, that's great. Sounds like you're doing a lot of innovative stuff. Now, as we wrap up the conversation, you think about the future of remote work. What are you working on improving? What do you see as the future? You said that you're considering adding in some mentoring, perhaps other things to further improve the way that DaySmart is approaching the remote work culture and just the future of how people will do remote working effectively.
Yeah, so there's a lot that we could go into in terms of cool new technology, AI, lots of new frontiers on that side. But the next phase of flexible work for me that really gets me excited is kind of engaging our collective need to flex in between not just work and life boundaries, but work and life and ourself and our well-being. There's kind of this extra dimension that I think is really starting to grab hold in terms of schools of thought from a leadership standpoint. So what I mean by that is if I said a couple of years ago, okay, I want to provide mindfulness or meditative exercises for my employees, I would have gone out and sought an expert in a field like yoga and brought them into the workplace. And now what you're seeing is some really innovative research coming out of universities that are starting to blend this into management practices, building classes around it, doing research on these concepts of how we develop ourselves. And in order to be really creative and innovative at work, we have to also feed ourselves as well. So my husband is an airline pilot, and I always say, you know, what you hear on an airplane, make sure that you put your own mask on before you try to help all of those around you. And so there's kind of this tendency now for folks to push themselves at work until they get to a point of burnout or push themselves in other hobbies or activities, and really being able to make well-being an important center of us as workers and employees is what I think is the key to unlock our future potential in terms of flexible work and new frontiers of work. So that's something that I'm seeing even out of Purdue, where I did my undergrad. They have a new center for employee wellness and doing a lot of focus and research there. So that's an area that I'm really excited to tap into. And that's a work conference that I'm excited that I'll be participating in next month, that you can come and see me there.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you, Cristi. I really appreciate you sharing your expertise. This was great.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
And thank you to the audience for checking out another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you checked out the show and leave a review. It helps others discover the show, and it helps us improve the show.